Stop. Don't scroll. Your soul has been screaming for an answer that your eyes haven't been able to see, but the veil is being torn right now. You weren't forgotten in the dark. You were strategically hidden, and God can no longer keep this secret from your spirit. There is a weight in your chest that doesn't belong to the gravity of this earth. It is the weight of a decree that was signed in the third heaven, but that has been waiting for a body, a voice and an instrument to manifest in your living room. You have been asking why the silence, while the heavens were asking, when will they be ready? Beloved, I know exactly where you are. I know the texture of the exhaustion that settles in your bones the moment you open your eyes in the morning. You wake up more tired than when you lay down, don't you? Your body is in a permanent state of high alert, like a sentry who has been on watch for 10 years without a single night of relief. You have forgotten what it feels like to have a mind that actually shuts off. This is the first layer of the price you've been paying, a body that is physically present, but a spirit that is constantly exhausted, wandering through a desert looking for the water that everyone else seems to find so easily. And then there is the second layer, the paralysis of your steps. You who used to be so sure now find yourself second-guessing every single move. Simple choices have become mountains. You feel like you are walking through deep water, and every time you try to make a decision, a voice of doubt whispers that you are about to make the same mistake again. You have seen doors close right as your hand touched the handle. You have seen others with less character, less integrity, and less heart being promoted and celebrated, while you remain in the shadows feeling erased, feeling like a draft that God started writing and then tossed into a drawer. But the sharpest pain, the one you bleed from in total silence, is what happens when you cross the threshold of your own home. You are the pillar. You are the one everyone leans on. You are the one who prays for the children, the one who sustains the spouse, the one who holds the house together so it doesn't collapse. But who holds you? You come home and you carry the entire world's weight on your tired shoulders. You have become a stranger in your own living room. You sit at the table, but your mind is still at the front lines of a war no one else can see. Your spouse has learned to stop asking what's wrong because they know the answer is always a hollow, "I'm fine." Your children, even your grandchildren, look for joy in your eyes, but all they find is survival mode. Regarding exactly this weight you carry home and the silence your family has learned to fear, there is a specific instrument that Solomon left recorded for the chosen ones to use in their darkest hour. It is a key of administration, the same one that allowed Joseph to govern a kingdom while others were starving. I have gathered this wisdom into what I call the Code of Solomon's Wisdom. I will show it to you soon, for it is the only way to stop the leaking of your soul. Keep it in the back of your mind for now, because before you touch the instrument, you must understand the architecture of your hiding. In the next few minutes, I am going to show you why the last 7 months felt like a spiritual desert. It wasn't because you failed, and it wasn't because you were being punished. You were being recalibrated for a weight of glory you didn't know you carried. You were being hidden in the sealed archive of the king because you were too valuable to be left exposed to the predators of this season. I'm going to reveal the ancient Hebrew word bakir, and when you hear its third layer of meaning, you will finally understand why the doors that closed for everyone else were specifically locked for you. It was divine theft, intended to save your life. And before this video ends, I'm going to do something that cannot be undone. I will call you by 3 specific names: your name of endurance, your name of authority, and your name of sending. This is the sealing. This is the moment the royal signet is pressed into the wax of your heart. If you leave now, if you click away because the enemy whispers that this is just another video, you walk away without the seal that authorizes your next season. You walk away with a decree open in heaven, but no authority to execute it on earth. Stay with me. I haven't told you the most important thing yet. You are not crazy for feeling this weight. You are not failing because you are tired. You are simply a Bakar who has been fighting a celestial war with earthly tools. The reason the silence has been so loud is because the king was waiting for the moment the wax was soft enough to take the seal. That moment is today. That moment is now. Do not move. The veil is already thin, and what I'm about to show you about the story of Joseph will rewrite the way you look at your own prison. The time of being hidden is over. The time of being revealed has begun. Stop. Don't scroll. Your soul has been screaming for an answer that your eyes haven't been able to see, but the veil is being torn right now. You weren't forgotten in the dark. You were strategically hidden, and God can no longer keep this secret from your spirit. There is a weight in your chest that doesn't belong to the gravity of this earth. It is the weight of a decree that was signed in the third heaven, but that has been waiting for a body, a voice and an instrument to manifest in your living room. You have been asking, why the silence? While the heavens were asking, when will they be ready? You arrived here because something you did today opened an exception in the sky. Beloved, I know exactly where you are. I know the texture of the exhaustion that settles in your bones the moment you open your eyes in the morning. You wake up more tired than when you lay down, don't you? Your body is in a permanent state of high alert, like a sentry who has been on watch for 10 years without a single night of relief. You have forgotten what it feels like to have a mind that actually shuts off. This is the first layer of the price you've been paying, a body that is physically present, but a spirit that is constantly exhausted, wandering through a desert looking for the water that everyone else seems to find so easily. And then there is the second layer, the paralysis of your steps. You, who used to be so sure, now find yourself second-guessing every single move. Simple choices have become mountains. You feel like you are walking through deep water, and every time you try to make a decision, a voice of doubt whispers that you are about to make the same mistake again. You have seen doors close right as your hand touched the handle. You have seen others with less character, less integrity, and less heart being promoted and celebrated while you remain in the shadows, feeling erased, as if there were a pattern you diagnosed but cannot break. But the sharpest pain, the one you bleed from in total silence, is what happens when you cross the threshold of your own home. You are the pillar. You are the one everyone leans on. You are the one who prays for the children, the one who sustains the spouse, the one who holds the house together so it doesn't collapse. But who holds you? Your spouse has learned to stop asking how your day was because they already know the answer, by the heavy silence you carry through the front door. They see the weight on your shoulders, and they have learned to step back, not out of lack of love, but out of fear of the pressure you carry. Your children and even your grandchildren look for the joy that used to live in your eyes, but all they find now is survival mode. You sit at the dinner table, but your mind is still at the front lines of a war no one else can see. The house feels the difference between when you arrive resolved and when you arrive merely discharging the weight the world piled on you during the day. Today, once again, you discharge that weight without meaning to, and the atmosphere of your home changed the moment you stepped inside. You have become a stranger in your own living room, a governor who has forgotten how to rule his own peace. In the next few minutes, I will show you where you have really been during these last months, in a way that finally makes the silence make sense. You are going to recognize yourself in what I describe, not in general terms, but in the specific night, the specific decision, and the specific conversation that changed everything. I am going to reveal the ancient Hebrew word Ba-Khair, and when you hear its third layer of meaning, you will finally understand why the doors that closed for everyone else were specifically locked for you. I will deliver a decoding of what was sealed over you before your time began. Before this video ends, I will call you by 3 specific names: your name of endurance, your name of authority, and your name of sending. This is not a generic blessing. It is a specific commission, with the names that were registered in the sealed archive of the King before you even knew they existed. I do not promise that this will change your life by tomorrow morning, but I promise that if you stay with me until the end, you will leave knowing something you didn't know before, with a specific map in your hand, and with a declaration over your life that remains long after the screen goes dark. If you leave now, if you click away because the enemy whispers that this is just another video, you walk away without the seal that authorizes your next season. You walk away with a decree open in heaven, but no authority to execute it on earth. If you leave in the middle, you leave without the commissioning. I want you to take a position right now. Before we continue, I want you to decree your presence. Stop everything for a second and write, "I am here," in the comments below. This is not for me. It is a decree of positioning before the throne. It is the moment you tell the heavens that the sentry is awake. Think of a seed in the middle of winter. The ground above it is hard, frozen and dark. To anyone walking by, there is no evidence of life, only a barren field. But that seed wasn't dropped there by accident. It was placed there with intention by hands that knew exactly what it was capable of becoming. You have felt like that seed, buried, forgotten, and crushed by the cold weight of the silence. But you weren't buried to rot. You were planted to transform. The darkness you've been living in isn't a tomb. It is a womb where your new identity is being formed. The hands that planted you have been guarding you in the secret place, waiting for the precisely right temperature to break the shell. You have been fighting the winter with summer tools, and that is why you are exhausted. You haven't been fighting poorly, you have been fighting without the specific instrument that was promised to you, but which you didn't even know existed. You have been trying to navigate a battlefield without the king's blueprint, trying to open the storehouse with keys that no longer fit the lock of this new season. The time of fighting with your bare hands is coming to an end. Regarding exactly this weight you carry home and the silence your family has learned to fear, there is a specific instrument that Solomon left recorded for the chosen ones to use in their darkest hour. It is a tool of administration and clarity that allows a man to stand before kings while others are still guessing. I have gathered this wisdom into a guide called the Code of Solomon's Wisdom. It is the blueprint that Solomon used to ensure his house was a place of peace even while he governed a nation. Keep this name in the back of your mind. I will return to it when the moment of the revelation is ripe. For now, I need you to understand that your hiding was a strategy of preservation. God could no longer keep this secret from your spirit because the closed storehouse period ended today. The cost of continuing to live as a common person while a royal decree has already been signed in your name is total emotional bankruptcy, and he will not let you go under. But what happens to a seed that everyone thought was dead, but that suddenly starts to crack the frozen ground? What happens when the silence of the king is replaced by a shout of command? Stay, for the first seal is about to break. You arrived here because something you did today opened an exception in the sky. The word has been spoken, the decree has been issued, but now begins the part where most people lose everything. Between the decree that was unsealed in the king's archive and the reality that needs to occupy your living room, there is an interval that the enemy knows better than you do. It is in this gap that the chosen ones lose what was granted, not because the decree was revoked, but because you arrived home on Monday morning and didn't have the instrument to sustain the weight of what was given to you. Solomon was the wisest man who ever lived. And this isn't just a title from a history book, it is a biblical record signed by God himself. When he had the chance to ask for anything at all, he didn't ask for wealth or long life or the heads of his enemies. He asked for wisdom. And God was so moved by the request that he gave him wisdom and everything else along with it. He judged the dispute of the two mothers when no one else in the kingdom knew how to judge. He wrote 3,000 proverbs. He governed Israel at the historical peak that the nation has never seen before or since. The Queen of Sheba traveled for months by camel just to test this wisdom, and when she returned, she said that not even half had been told. And Jesus himself, Jesus in person, cited Solomon by name. And he didn't take this wisdom to the grave. He left it recorded with a surgical precision that has crossed 3,000 years without losing its edge. He left recorded how to stop trying to open the doors of your destiny with the wrong key, the key of effort and anxiety, and finally use the royal signet that was always yours so you can stop repeating the same pattern of failure. He left recorded how to walk into your home, not as a weary servant carrying the world's weight, but as the governor of the house who brings peace just by entering, so your family finally feels protected and no longer has to deal with your survival mode. And he left recorded how to stand with the posture of one who has seen the king's blueprint with criteria and discernment, so you stop asking for advice from those who cannot give it, stop deciding in the heat of pain, and stop occupying a territory of doubt. I have gathered this into a guide called the Code of Solomon's Wisdom. It is in the first pinned comment, right below. It is the union of the wisdom found in Proverbs with the principles of peaceful restoration, which take a person out of survival mode and into a state of clarity and decision. Solomon wrote it. I organized it for the common day you are living right now, in this week that begins tomorrow. Along with the main guide come two instruments that I placed there, because without them, the guide would have a hole. The first is the ritual of the righteous sleep. 10 minutes before bed, guided by what David wrote in Psalm 4:8. I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety. It is not a modern relaxation technique. It is the act of handing over to the guard of the one who never sleeps everything you carried all day. So your soul stops pulling guard duty over the sealed archive that is already in the hands of someone who doesn't need you awake to defend what is yours. It is for those who no longer remember what it's like to lie down and have their mind shut off along with their eyes. The second is the awakening of clarity, the 7 morning decrees. 5 minutes upon waking, before your phone, before your coffee, before the first message the world tries to write into you. 7 decrees pronounced in your own voice, taken from the wisdom of Proverbs. That position, the day before the day, positions you. It is not positive affirmation. It is a biblical decree in your own voice, the posture of an heir who has seen the blueprint before the calendar, the bills, and the routine speak for you. To start the day as one who was called, not as one who was crushed by the cold wax of the world's pressure before 8 in the morning. And the value, the value. It is less than a Starbucks coffee in the afternoon, less than a simple Sunday lunch with your family, less than a tank of gas to drive to church on Sunday. I set it at this value on purpose, not because it is worth little. It is worth what Solomon left recorded for 3,000 years. I set it at this value so that the only obstacle between you and the instrument would be your decision to reach out your hand. Not price, not schedule, not distance. Just your hand toward the link. And it has a guarantee of 7 days. If you open it, use it for a week, and it doesn't serve you, you send an email and receive your money back in full. And here is the part no one else does. You keep the 2 bonus instruments. The ritual of the righteous sleep stays with you. The awakening of clarity, the 7 morning decrees, stays with you, even after the refund. This isn't a generous concession. It is the recognition that the risk of testing cannot be yours. The risk is ours. The only risk that remains for you is the risk of not testing. And the risk of not testing is the risk of leaving here with the decree open in heaven and losing it on Monday morning for lack of an instrument. The next night, you will lay your head on the pillow with your soul still on high alert isn't months away. It is tonight, maybe 3 hours from now. The next morning you will wake up thinking about the bills, the battles, and what you haven't solved yet, starting the day at a disadvantage. That is tomorrow. Maybe 6 hours from now. The next time your family will receive you discharging the weight the world put on you is tomorrow night. Every night without the ritual of the righteous sleep is a night your body will pay for. Every morning without the awakening of clarity, the 7 morning decrees, is a morning the world rewrites first. Every day without the code of Solomon's wisdom is a day the house feels the weight, and you don't even realize you feel it. The cost of postponing is not 0, but don't leave now. The ceiling is not yet finished. What I need to show you next is greater than any instrument Solomon left recorded. It is the ancient Hebrew name of what is happening to you at this very moment, the name of the exception that was opened in heaven because of what you did today. And when you hear this name, you will understand why everything up to this point was preparation for one single word. Stay. You aren't crazy for feeling like the air has become thick and the signals from heaven have gone quiet. You are in the validation phase of your calling, the moment where the chosen are separated from the merely called. Before a sword is drawn in battle, it must endure the fire and the hammer in the absolute darkness of the forge, away from every admiring eye. I'm going to give you 5 specific signs that prove you are not being punished, but you are being prepared for a weight of glory that would crush your current version. If you recognize yourself in these markers, you can stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "For what purpose?" Because the King is about to unseal your file. The first sign is that your prayer life has changed its texture in a way that feels like desertion. It used to be easy. The words flowed, and you felt an immediate, warm response. But lately, it feels like your prayers are hitting a brass ceiling and echoing back into the empty room. You find yourself kneeling, but the words won't come, or when they do, they feel hollow, as if the communication lines have been cut. Beloved, this isn't because God stopped listening. It's because He is moving you from the outer court to the Holy of Holies, where communication is deeper than mere words. He is training your spirit to hear His heartbeat in the silence rather than just His voice in the wind. The second sign is a practical weight in your common day that you cannot name, a paralysis of your steps. You feel stuck in choices that used to be simple, second-guessing every move you make. You find yourself haunted by a recurring pattern of errors you've already diagnosed but can't seem to break, as if you are walking through deep water. You see doors closing right as your hand touches the handle, while others, with less integrity and less heart, pass through easily. This isn't failure, it is a strategic lockdown. God is preventing you from settling for a good door, because the great door of your destiny is still being forged in the secret place. The third sign is the most painful markers of all, the heavy distance that has settled inside your own home. You are the pillar everyone leans on, but you have become a stranger in your own living room. You cross the threshold after a long day, and a heavy silence follows you through the front door. Your spouse has learned to stop asking, "How are you?" because they know the answer is always a hollow, "I'm fine." You bleed in silence so the house doesn't fall, but your family feels the pressure you carry, even if they don't understand it. You've forgotten how to be present because you are constantly on guard duty for a war no one else can see. The fourth sign is the visible leaking of your soul in your daily life. You see breaches opening in your common routine that you don't know how to close, and resources seem to slip through invisible holes in your hands. Your body is in a permanent state of high alert, and your soul never truly unplugs, even when you try to sleep. You wake up at 3:00 a.m. with your heart racing, not because of a nightmare, but because your spirit is sensing a frequency you haven't learned to decode yet. You wake up more tired than when you lay down, carrying a bone-deep exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. This is the mark of a sentry who has forgotten how to be a civilian. The fifth sign is the deafening silence of the king as the only answer to your cry for confirmation. You've asked for a sign, a fleece, or a word from a stranger, but all you've received is a holy, terrifying quiet. This silence is not rejection, it is the seal of the archive. When a royal document is being sealed by the king, there is absolute silence in the throne room until the wax hardens. You are that document. Every time you cry out and hear nothing, it is the king holding his breath while he finishes writing your new identity. You aren't being ignored, you are being finished by the hand of the master. If you recognize these markers in your life, it is time to stop hiding your face in shame and start standing in your authority. You are carrying a weight that was never meant to be common, and you were chosen for this specific pressure because your foundation can hold it. I want you to take a position of faith right now, before the clouds of witnesses that surround you. Stop everything and write in the comments below, "I carry what no one else carries." This is not a comment. It is a decree of acceptance. You are telling the heavens that you finally understand your burden is actually your commission, and you are ready for the seal to break. Think of the diamond. It isn't a stone that was born beautiful. It is a piece of common carbon that didn't give up under impossible pressure. Every one of these signs, the silence at home, the financial breaches, the exhaustion in your bones, is a wall of a pressure chamber designed by God. You aren't being crushed to be destroyed. You are being refined to separate the grain from the husk. The pain you feel is the refining fire burning away the civilian version of you so that the chosen version can finally emerge. You are being turned into something that can cut through any obstacle in the next season. There is a specific Hebrew word that defines exactly what you are carrying and why you were chosen for this specific pressure chamber. It is a word that contains the secret of why your desert had to be so long and why your silence had to be so deep. When I reveal this word to you in the next few minutes, you will never look at your exhaustion the same way again. It will be as if someone finally handed you the glasses to see the map you've been holding in the dark. You are about to understand the third layer of your calling and why the king kept you hidden until this very hour. But before I give you the Hebrew name of what you carry, I must remind you of the instrument that Solomon left for the common day. The guide I mentioned, the Code of Solomon's Wisdom, is what allows you to sustain the weight of the name you are about to receive. Knowing your name gives you identity, but having the instrument gives you the power to govern your house on Monday morning. The name is the why, but the instrument is the how. The order is critical because authority without administration leads to a new kind of exhaustion. We are approaching the moment where your name and your power meet. The veil is becoming so thin that you can almost hear the sound of the royal signet ring hitting the wax. Everything you have suffered up to this point, every tear shed in the silence of your kitchen, every decision that felt like a trap, was preparation for the word I am about to speak. Your time of being a buried seed is over. The ground is beginning to crack under the force of your new identity. Do not move. Do not look away. The revelation of who you were meant to be is only seconds away, and it will rewrite the history of your house forever. Stay. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Place your hand on your chest, right over where the weight has been living for the last few months. Do not rush this breath. Feel the rise and fall of your lungs, a rhythm that was sustained by the king, even when you thought he had turned his back. You are not in a vacuum. You are in a sacred chamber. The silence surrounding you is not the silence of an empty house, but the hushed atmosphere of a royal court while the king signs a decree. Silence is the environment of authority before the command is spoken. Stay in this posture. The wax is softening. The seal is about to break. And for you to hear what comes next, your spirit must be more attentive than your ears. You have spent a long time searching for a reason for your pain, but what you really needed was a name for this season. Without a name, the desert feels like a punishment. Without a title, the silence feels like abandonment. But I am here to tell you that this period of leaking prayers and closed doors is not a generic tragedy. It is a specific documented state in the king's archive. There is an ancient Hebrew word that acts as the code to unseal your current file. It is the name of the exception that was opened over your life. When you understand this word, the sealed archive of your last 7 months will finally open, revealing that you weren't forgotten in the dark. You were strategically concealed. The word is Bakir. Pronounce it slowly in your mind. Bakir. In common language, many would translate this simply as chosen, but the religious world has made that word feel small and cheap. To be merely chosen is to be picked from a crowd, but the depth of Bakir is far more dangerous and glorious. In the king's blueprint, a Bakir is one who has been selected and tested by fire. It refers to the concealed sword that is kept in the dark scabbard until the precise moment of the final blow. You are not just a choice. You are a selection that has been through the forge. The silence you felt was actually the king's hand covering you, so the enemy couldn't see the edge he was sharpening in you. You felt the weight of the mantle on your tired shoulders and thought it was the weight of failure. But a Bakir carries a specific burden because they are the keeper of the hidden key. The royal signet is not given to those who only know the palace. It is forged in those who can survive the prison without losing their integrity. Your hiding was not a prison sentence, it was the closed storehouse phase. God locked the doors of the common world to keep you from spending your oil on things that weren't part of your destiny. He unsealed your spirit, while he lacquered your external life, preparing you to occupy a territory that requires a version of you that only the darkness could produce. This is what it means to be Bakir. It is the realization that your uniqueness, which felt like a defect or a loneliness, is actually your authorization. The very things that made you feel erased were the king's way of rubbing off the civilian fingerprints so that only the royal mark would remain. Think of the concealed sword. It doesn't complain about the darkness of the sheath, because it knows that the sheath is what keeps its edge from being dulled by the wind. You have been in the sheath, beloved. You have been the Bakir in the forge, and the cold wax of the seal that kept your identity hidden is breaking right now under the heat of this revelation. The scripture records this state of the chosen with a precision that should stop your heart. In Psalm 105:43, the King James Version declares, "And he brought forth his people with joy, and his chosen, his Bakirisin, with gladness." Notice the order. First comes the bringing forth, then comes the joy. But the joy doesn't come because the desert ended. The joy comes because the Bakir realized they were being brought out with a testimony that the fire couldn't touch. You are being brought forth today, not as a survivor who barely escaped, but as a Habakkuk who is exiting the secret place with the blueprint of the king etched into their very soul. Remember the seed in the winter. The ground was hard, and the silence was absolute. You thought you were buried to rot, but you were a Habakkuk planted for a harvest that the world is currently starving for. The silence of God was the insulation the seed needed to transform. You have been fighting the winter with summer tools, but the storehouse key has now been placed in your hand. This period has a name before it has an end, and its name is authorization. The exception that was opened today was for you to realize that you are no longer a victim of the leaking season, but the owner of the royal signet that commands the new one. Now that you know the name of what you carry, you must understand that you are not the first to be hidden in the king's archive. There is someone who carried this same weight long before you, someone who sat in a prison of silence while a famine was preparing to consume the world. What happened to this person when they were finally revealed will change everything you believe about your own current prison. I promise to show you the connection between your exhaustion and the specific authority of a governor, and I will not fail you. Because once the Habakkuk understands the Joseph blueprint, they never again walk into their home as a weary servant. They walk in as a ruler. I'm coming back to this right now. Look at your own life and see the bars of the prison Joseph once touched. You have been in the silence of the pit, sold by circumstances you thought you could trust, and forgotten in a dungeon where the only company was the echo of a promise that seemed to have died. You are Joseph in the middle of the 13 years of being erased. To the world you were a slave. To your family you were a memory. But in the king's blueprint you were a Barca Ir being lacquered in the dark. The silence of the prison was the king's hand, keeping the predators away while your character was being hardened into the royal signet. Joseph didn't just survive the prison, he operated a frequency that no one else could hear. When he stood before Pharaoh, he didn't just offer a spiritual interpretation. He presented a blueprint of administration that saved a nation. He identified the leaks before they happened. He designed the granaries, the first sealed archive, to hold the harvest of the 7 years of plenty. He didn't just have faith, he had the instrument of wisdom that turned a famine into his authorization. He governed the grain because he had already governed his own soul in the silence of the dungeon. Your current prison is simply the training ground for your granaries. Before we continue this activation, I want you to do something that is not for me, but for the archive of the king. Give this message a like right now. This is not about a social media metric. Every like is a signal to the heavens that another person needs to hear this frequency. You are not doing it for me. You are doing it for the one who is currently bleeding in silence in their own kitchen, thinking they have been forgotten. Be the intercessor who allows this blueprint to reach the next Bay Cage IR. Your positioning now determines your visibility in the next season. Now stand in the posture of a governor. The wax of the seal has hardened, and the king is calling your name in the empty valley. This is the moment of the unveiling. I'm going to declare 3 names over you that were recorded in the secret place before you were born. These are not descriptions, they are commissions. They are the names that authorize you to walk through the doors that were locked yesterday. Listen with your spirit, for when these names are spoken, the frequency of your house begins to shift from survival mode to the weight of authority. First, you are the keeper of the promise. You are the one who has been entrusted with the hidden seed of your family's destiny. While others look at the frozen ground and see barrenness, you are the one who feels the heartbeat of the harvest underneath. You have been authorized to stand guard over what God whispered to your ancestors, ensuring that not one word falls to the ground. You are the sentry of the bloodline, and the king recognizes the key you carry in your spirit. Second, you are the bearer of the decree. You no longer walk under the opinions of men or the weight of your own past mistakes. You carry the royal signet of the king upon your heart. When you enter a room, you do not enter alone. You enter with the authority of the archive that has already been signed in your favor. You are the portador who brings the atmosphere of the throne into the common day. The decisions that used to paralyze you will now flee before the clarity of the decree you carry. Third, you are sent before the time. Like Joseph, you were not discarded. You were sent ahead to prepare the way for those who will follow. Your suffering was a strategic deployment to ensure that when the famine hits the world, Your house will already be sitting at the governor's table. You are a strategic envoy of the throne, a strategic pioneer who has already mapped the territory that your children will one day inherit. You were hidden to be preserved for the exact hour of the world's greatest need. You are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent. These three names are the coordinates of your new identity. They are the transmission that the king is broadcasting into your life right now. You have been like a radio that was tuned to the frequency of the world's noise, but today, your receptor has been recalibrated. You are finally picking up the signal of the third heaven, the blueprint that tells you exactly where to step and when to stay still. The static of the desert has been replaced by the clarity of the command. But there is a secret, something the enemy has spent centuries trying to hide about these three names. He doesn't mind if you have a title, as long as you don't understand the power of the frequency they carry. Because when you finally grasp what these three names do to the spiritual atmosphere of your living room, the enemy loses the only weapon he has ever successfully used against you. He has been banking on your ignorance of these names to keep you in survival mode, but that bank has just gone insolvent. Think of your life as a transmission. For years you've been receiving the frequency of exhaustion, comparison, and the silence of the pit. But when these three names were declared, they acted as a new receptor. You are now syntonized to the frequency of the archive. What Joseph did in the granaries was simply the physical manifestation of a spiritual frequency he had already mastered. He didn't just store grain, he stored the king's authority. You are now being syntonized to that same frequency, the frequency of the governor who knows the harvest is already won. The names are the wine, and they have syntonized your receptor. But the static of Monday morning is still coming. The voice of the bills and the silence of the house will try to knock you off this frequency the moment the screen goes dark. This is why the names alone are not enough. You need the tool to keep the receptor clean. You need to keep the archive open in your own home. Stay, because what I'm about to show you in the final act is the only way to ensure the frequency of the king stays louder than the noise of the world. The veil is already behind you. You are no longer standing in the dark, wondering if you were forgotten. You are standing in the light of the unveiling, with the three names of the throne etched into your soul. The enemy is trembling not because of your strength, but because you finally recognize the royal signet in your hand. But before we finish, there is one last word. One last decree that ties the Joseph blueprint to your specific kitchen table. Do not move, for the final word is the one that seals the entire journey. You have been losing ground, not because you lack strength, but because you have been operating without the strategic battle map. The adversary doesn't want you to realize that your hiding was actually a tactical deployment. He wants you to believe you are lost in the woods, while you are actually positioned in the king's blueprint. To reclaim your territory, you must recognize the three specific erosions he uses to dull the edge of the BKHIR. This is not a time for generic prayer. It is a time for surgical spiritual warfare. Stand up. The map is being unrolled, and the frequency of the archive is becoming clear. The first tactic the enemy uses to breach your wall is the erosion of comparison. He holds up the visible success of those who sold their souls or took shortcuts, making you feel like a draft god tossed into a drawer and forgot to finish. He whispers that your integrity is your handicap and that your pace is a sign of failure. This tactic is designed to make you hate your own timing. He shows you the counterfeit harvest of the ungodly to make you neglect the seed of the bakir that is currently cracking the frozen ground of your winter. Your weapon against this is the decree of the singular path. You must stop speaking what your eyes see and start speaking what the throne has decreed about your specific journey. While the enemy points at someone else's garden, you must speak to your own blueprint. Say out loud, "My timing is locked in the king's archive." You do not need to run someone else's race to win your own crown. Your authority is not found in being faster. It is found in being precisely where the king positioned you. Use your voice to define your territory before the world tries to narrow it. The second tactic is the erosion of perception, where the enemy translates the silence of the king into the rejection of the Father. He wants you to believe that because the windows of heaven seem closed, the heart of God has turned away from you. He uses the heavy silence in your living room and the lack of immediate answers to convince you that you are no longer authorized to lead. This is a lie designed to make you abandon your post as the sentry of your house right before the transmission from the throne becomes clear. To shatter this lie, you must wield the memory of the altar. When the silence becomes deafening, you must travel back in your spirit to the moment where God was unequivocally real to you. Go back to the altar where the fire first fell on your life. This is not nostalgia, it is a legal claim. You remind the adversary and your own soul that a word spoken in the secret place cannot be revoked by a quiet season on earth. The king's silence is not a no. It is the cold wax of the seal of the archive hardening into place. Before we move to the final tactic, I need you to take a position of spiritual alignment. If you are sensing the weight of this strategic map, subscribe to this channel right now. Do not see this as a social media gesture. See it as a positioning of your spirit to receive the frequencies that the world tries to drown out. By subscribing, you are telling the heavens that you are no longer a civilian wandering through the woods, but a commissioned envoy ready for the next layer of the blueprint. Position yourself now as a keeper of the hidden key. The third and most dangerous tactic is the erosion of persistence. The enemy knows your breakthrough is in the next 24 hours, so he makes the last 24 minutes feel like 24 years. He hits you with a wave of bone-deep fatigue right at the finish line, hoping you will drop the storehouse key just as you reach the door. He wants you to quit when you are one breath away from the unveiling. He counts on your exhaustion to make the prison feel like a permanent home, trying to convince you that the desert is your final destination. Your final weapon is the resistance of the last second. It is the resolve of Solomon, who didn't stop until the temple was finished and the glory fell. You don't need to run, you just need to stay standing when everything in your flesh is begging you to fall. This is the moment you hold the royal signet tighter and refuse to move. Now that you know exactly what you are dealing with and which weapons you can wield, there is a prayer that needs to be made. Not by me, but by you. And I am going to lead you through it. Close your eyes now. Place both hands over your chest, right where you have been carrying that invisible pressure for so long. Take a deep, slow breath before we continue. Feel the air filling the space that fear tried to occupy. You are not just breathing oxygen, you are inhaling the atmosphere of the secret place. This is the moment where the noise of the world stops and the frequency of the archive becomes the only sound. Hold that breath for a second, acknowledging that your heart is still beating because the king willed it so. Now, let it out slowly, releasing the static of the desert. You are standing on holy ground, even if you are just sitting in your chair. The veil is gone. Father, we stand before you not as those who have it all figured out, but as the Bakshire who are weary from the forge. We confess the exhaustion that has settled into our very bones, the body that sleeps but never rests, the mind that never unplugs. We bring to you the decisions we made in the dark, the moments of despair where clarity felt like a luxury we couldn't afford, and the weight of the errors we diagnosed but couldn't stop. We bring the silence of our homes, the distance at the dinner table, and the burden of being the pillar that feels like it's about to crack. We receive the three names you have whispered, the keeper of the hidden key, the bearer of the decree, and the sent one from the secret place. Open our ears now, not to hear a sermon, but to hear the heartbeat of the king. My child, I have seen you in the deep watches of the night, when you stared at the ceiling, and the tightness in your chest arrived before your first conscious thought. I was there when the soul's high alert kept you awake, counting the hours until the sun would rise on another day of survival. You thought you were alone in that exhaustion, but I was the sentry standing guard while your spirit wrestled with the weight I placed upon you. I didn't let you sleep because I was recalibrating your receptor to hear a frequency the world cannot know. Your weariness was the sign that your old strength was being replaced by mine. I saw you, and I did not look away. I saw you when you stood at the crossroads, paralyzed by choices that felt like traps. I saw the decisions you made in the heat of desperation, because the clarity you begged for seemed to arrive a second too late. I watched you wake up with the crushing weight of mistakes you saw coming, but didn't have the instrument to avoid. You felt erased, forgotten in the sealed archive, but I was the one who locked those doors. I prevented the good paths from opening, because I was preserving you for the great path. Every no you heard from heaven was a yes to your preservation. You were not failing, you were being forged, and I have been the silent witness in your living room. I saw you cross the threshold of your home, discharging the weight the world piled on you onto the very ones you would die to protect. I saw your spouse learn to stop asking the questions that only brought more silence, and I saw your children look for the joy that used to live in your eyes, only to find the cold wax of survival mode. I saw the pain that caused you, the secret bleeding you did so the house wouldn't fall. I was there in the kitchen, in the heavy atmosphere of the dinner table. I am not removing the battle, but I am handing you the blueprint today, so that your house may finally know my peace through you. You are my Bakir, the concealed sword that I am now drawing from the sheath. The winter that tried to freeze your seed was the very thing that forced your roots to go deep into my character. The ground that seemed hard and dead is cracking right now, not because of your effort, but because of the life I hid inside you. You are no longer a buried secret. You are a revealed authority. I am pressing my royal signet into the soft wax of your heart this day. Walk into your Monday morning not as a weary servant, but as the governor I trained in the silence of the pit. The exception is open, and the decree is yours to execute. You are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent, you are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent, you are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent. Don't say amen yet. Stay here, stay in this weight. Feel the mantle settling on your shoulders. It is no longer the weight of the world, but the weight of your calling. The seed that was hidden in the frozen dark has broken through. The earth that seemed barren is now producing the first green shoots of your new identity. The circle is complete. The hiding is over. The harvest of the Bakir has begun, and it starts at your kitchen table tonight. Breathe in the authority that has been restored to you. Now you may say amen. What was sealed here now will be tested on the first Monday morning. When the alarm rings, when the routine returns, and when the voice of the old cycle tries to reread what happened today as a mere passing emotion of a Sunday night. The enemy does not accept without a fight what has just been decreed over you. And whoever is commissioned without an instrument walks into the open field without what Solomon left recorded exactly for this moment. The exception was opened in heaven. Now the seed that has germinated needs to survive the common day. The Code of Solomon's wisdom is in the first pinned comment right below. Not as a substitute for what you received in this message, but as a companion to defend what was sealed in the archive of your soul. Because a decree without an instrument rots on the first Monday morning, and the adversary counts on Monday. It is less than a Starbucks coffee in the afternoon, less than a Saturday afternoon snack. With a guarantee of 7 days and the 2 bonus instruments, the ritual of the righteous sleep and the awakening of clarity, that stay with you even if the guide doesn't serve you. The risk is ours. The hand is yours. Click now while the decree is still alive in your chest. Not tomorrow, not after your shower, not after talking to someone. Because those who leave it for later leave it for never, and the adversary counts on the later. He has already counted on the later in every other message you received and postponed. He counts on the later now too. This will not be another one. And now, the last word. There is someone in your circle walking with a forgotten name, just like you walked until today. Someone who is going to arrive home tonight carrying the weight of a life they think is erased, discharging that same pressure on those they love. Someone who will lay their head on the pillow with the same soul on high alert, waiting for a blueprint they don't even know exists. This person will not stop their scroll on their own. They need someone to send this message. That someone is you. This is not sharing a video, it is interceding for a Bakir who is still in the dark. Now close your eyes, take 3 breaths, and remain in silence until the video ends. What was done here needs to land. Don't scroll, don't leave, stay.